Hello traders, welcome to this weekly outlook. As always, starting with the dollar index. And last week we were looking for this move higher. So we had some kind of a wave a B down, and a wave C higher. Well, price is stalling here, and that actually started invalidating the daily setup I was looking for the push higher. So let's go over the context for a little longer. This was one unique wave, like I said, and for that to correct and for us to get the opportunity to trade the continuation of this bearish wave in the yellow box, you wanted to see at least a 3-wave structure higher, right? So we had this move higher, which was corrective. I was looking for at least 3 waves lower. That, well, we have that. And then I'm looking for the continuation higher, ideally to take out the 9506, so we have a simple zigzag ABC, for example, and then we can sell the continuation lower. Well, so far price is accelerating lower at the moment, and that makes it a little less likely that the reversal is going to start from this level here, so that this move higher is a little less likely than it was in last week's video, which means that if price moves lower, this is one unique wave. In other words, once we make a new low and we start looking for reversal signs, you are looking for a correction, to say the least, of this entire move lower. For example, if it's just 60 or something like that, you draw a Fibonacci and you see that you have to correct the entire move. That's the difference. So what I'm looking for is to see what's going on here on the lower time frames, to see what I can start looking for buy, and probably the wave C high or whatever this correction is gonna unfold like. So let's have a look at lower time frames. If we go to the 4-hour time frame, we see this was the first leg lower, and I said one of three legs lower. Well, there was one, this was two. That was bullish, of course, and the third leg lower. Well, right now I don't see a reversal sign. I'm not seeing anything that suggests that this move is ahead now. Well, that can change, of course, but if we look at what's going on here right now, this looks very much corrective. So what I like to see and what I expect in the beginning of the week, I expect this to move higher, take out this high here, and then we have at least ABC higher, and if that remains an ABC pattern or corrective structure, then once the correction is over, you're gonna look for this push lower. That push lower is expected to take out these lows here around the 91.45, and once that's in place, well, we simply have to wait and see. You manage it accordingly. First you want to see these lows taken out. Well, that might give you a buy from here. That could be the minimum requirements for that major move higher. The other scenario is that you're going to see take out of this low. That's no big deal neither. That's even a better sell, and that means that once the reversal comes, the reversal will be even bigger than we saw by means of this wave here. So to summarize what I'm looking for on the 1-hour time frame, 1 hour, zoom in, this is a corrective wave in my opinion, but I like to see a continuation higher like this. Right now I don't see a sell setup, I don't see a buy setup neither, but it might turn into some kind of a buy setup. So that's what I'm looking for, but I think that the sell is gonna be the easiest trade in the short medium term, and longer term I'm still looking for a buy. Keep in mind, guys, don't just jump in terms of corrections, because this correction is in the middle of nowhere right now, which means right now you can have all kind of corrective structures unfolding, whether it's a zigzag, a flat, a triangle, a correction combination, etc., etc. That's for me, it's hard to tell right now because the minimum requirements have been met. So the time factor is already solved when it comes to this move here. The only thing I need now is this can move sideways or by means of price, and then we're ready to continue lower. Well, of course, if we have a buy setup, I will trade that buy setup. So let me zoom in. If I get price a little low, for example, and I'm looking for the buy, I will target this 92 level, and then I will simply manage it. I'm not going to take profit, because if this is the start of the continuation high, I don't want to throw away a good trade. But this beginning here doesn't look like it's ready for a bullish reversal yet. I think we need to go lower first before we can go to the bullish direction once again. But in the end it's a probability game, so if I see a buy I will take it and I bring my stop to break even and see how far it goes. If it comes back against me, that's no big deal, then I just take the break even trade and I will focus on the sell trade, because the sell trade has a little bit more context, and then I'm targeting once again to begin with this low. I want to see that low taken out, but I also keep in mind that the daily time frame might bring price even below the 91 level, and that means that we have this entire move lower which is in need of a correction. So that means down and then the move higher. The beginning of the week, let's see whether the dollar can gain some strength, and that has an impact of course on the other dollar pairs. So if you look at the euro dollar, we see the inverse pretty much, same thing. This move here has not been corrected. This is all one unique wave. Well, for a while I already said that I'm looking for a 3-wave down, and I said this is for me is the wave 1. For the simple reason, this is not the entire correction of the move higher from 103 basically. So in other words, there are several scenarios on the table. This yellow box is wave A. We're now seeing a wave B of some kind, or maybe even an expanded wave B, and then the wave C lower, and that might be enough to correct this entire move higher, and gives it the opportunity to trade the continuation higher. And the other scenario, of course, is basically the same as the dollar index, but then the inverse is that this simply is not over yet, and we need to make higher highs. And once that's over, you can draw a Fibonacci ratio, and then you want to see a correction of this entire move, and price comes back down once again. So it's hard to tell what the bias is right now, besides the fact that I still am inclined to say that the dollar needs to gain strength, but I realize that the possibility of extension in the market are there, which means you don't want to sell right away. You need to look for an entry. But these scenarios that I described, the biases, are based on the daily and the weekly time frame, which gives you plenty of opportunity to trade on the 4-hour or the 1-hour time frame. Well, if we look at the 4-hour time frame, we see this move high here, where it means of a clear 3-wave pattern. Then we see a clear 3-wave pattern to the downside, which was clearly corrective, and now we see another 3-wave pattern higher. So what I want to see in the beginning of next week is whether this is going to result in a reversal or a correction, and if that's going to be a correction, then you want to look for the buy. But you have to manage it accordingly, because you're just targeting the previous high. What I mean by that is whether you like to take profit, partial profit is up to you, but what I would suggest to do is at least bring your trade to break even, because in terms of trading structure, if we see a consolidation here and followed by a new high, that's the minimum requirements of the structure, which means that then you might see a top. I'm not saying there will be a top, but that is the minimum requirement. 1-hour time frame, well, this was a clear corrective structure, and I think the next correction needs to be bigger. I don't think it needs to be the same size like this, which means this might be, for example, the first leg lower. It looks very corrective to me. Whatever the opening is going to do, I'm not really interested in that, as you know. But if we see some kind of a wave B here, then you want to trade the third leg lower, which is basically the inverse of the dollar index. I'm going to look for a third leg high in the dollar index, which means a third leg low in the euro dollar. It's very simple for me. If I don't see what I like, I'm not interested in this sell. And the reason is simple. There are several scenarios possible on how a correction can unfold. So what I need to see a confirmation that this is a likely minimum requirement of an impulse. By means of whether it's a wave A or a wave 1, I don't care. But if it's a minimum requirement of an impulse, I have a high probability of trading a strong wave C or strong wave 3, whatever it's going to be. If it doesn't do that, you don't want to start trading within the corrective structures, because a very likely scenario is that you either have a triangle, a zigzag, a flat pattern, or a converted pattern where wave C comes short, or a complex combination, and then you basically start selling a move like this, and price will reverse against you. The reason why I suggest not to do so is, for most retail traders, that's the hardest thing. Because if this is a converted wave C, for example, right, and you have something like this, you're not just ending up with a losing trade, you're most likely also going to miss the profitable buy. So therefore, right now I don't see a sell. Same thing, I don't see a buy in the dollar index yet. I need a little bit more, and if once that happens and price consolidates somewhat, I'm looking for this move, and same thing as dollar index, I mentioned it accordingly, because let's go back to the daily. keep in mind this was a corrective leg, and this still can be a wave B of some kind, so this could make a corrective move lower. So I'm interested in a potential sell, and I will keep and try to hold it as long as possible, because it might be the reverse altogether. But I keep an open mind, which means that if this turns out to be just another correction, and in that case I have to go to the 4-hour time frame, we're correcting at least this move here, then I don't want to miss out on the buy, and then from the new highs I will look for the sell once again. Alright, so short term, let's see whether the 1-hour time frames gives us a 3-wave move lower, to say the least. Medium term, if that's corrective, I'm looking for this buy. Longer term, I remain bearish on the euro dollar. It has to come down sooner or later. I mean, the upside is limited, but I have to emphasize that the upside is limited based on the daily and the weekly time frame, which is still a lot of pips in terms of the 1 hour and the 4 hour or whatever time frame. It's a lot of pips. So you don't like to have a drawdown like that. So trade it on the 1 hour time frame, but keep in mind that the daily and the weekly are still in need of a correction lower, because the entire move higher on the euro dollar has not been corrected yet. This is still one unique wave. Dollar yen, we're doing pretty well with that. Still, it's ranging, and well, I already mentioned that this is all corrective all over the place. Let me zoom out. I don't see a take out of this high anytime soon. If it happens, well, no big deal, but I don't think it's the highest probability. I think we're gonna make something like this and then come back down, and maybe then make a move higher, but even that's it's way too far in the future to say anything relevant about this. What I know for sure is that this is a 3-wave pattern, and what I want to look for now is on the 4 hours, relatively simple. You either see this move here is some kind of wave A. That's what I said last video. Then we went back up and I said I want to see this low taken out. Sorry, this low here. In other words, we have a potential A, B, C zigzag, and we look for the buy. Well, that didn't happen, and I drew this pattern, and it shows a potential triangle, but I don't want to bias anyone by saying this is a triangle. It's too early to call, because we have several scenarios. Either this is ABC, where wave C came up short. Well, that's fine, no big deal. Then you want to see something that's need to be next. You want to see a flag pattern here, corrective structure, so you can target this move here and target the previous heights at least, and maybe even to 27. Alright, so that gives us here move higher, consolidation, buy. That's in case that this is a wave C by means of a contracting flat pattern, for example. The other scenario is that this is a triangle, and then you have to buy. For a triangle, you want to see on the 1 hour time frame some kind of a bearish move. This is not enough, same as the euro dollar and the pound, the euro dollar and dollar index. And then you want to see some kind of a flag formation, consolidation, whatever. And then you want to look for the sell. And this sell you want to keep as long as you can, because it can go all the way down for wave E within a triangle. But the other scenario, and there's a lot of scenarios on the table right now, is something like this. And that this is the contracting for wave B, for example, and that means you want to have this trade set up. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for clues on a 1 hour time frame. If this is going to turn into a 3-wave correction or an extension of a 3-wave, so that's 7 or 11, etc., etc. Well, you all can read the book for Elliott Wave. But if this is a correction, well, I'm looking for the buy. If this actually makes a bearish correction by means of a bear flag or whatever you want to label it, then I'm looking for the sell, and I keep in mind that we might see a triangle correction or even a regular zigzag where wave C needs to take out the low of 112, to say the least, before it is ready to go high. So well, it's either or, flag buy. If it's a flag like this, you want to sell, and then determine we will determine later on whether it's a ABCD E6 triangle or whether it's ABC a bigger correction, etc., etc. But I think the dollar yen is definitely very interesting. So I think we need the Asian trading session to clarify more or less what's going to happen here, and then as of the European or maybe the US session, you can either look for buy or to sell. It honestly depends on whether you got a flag like this or whether you're gonna get a flag like this. And let me try to emphasize this means a sell, and if you see something like this, you are looking for the buy. Alright, then there's one more thing I need to notice, because we track this on a daily basis and my traders know exactly how to interpret the trades. So if you see a correction, for example, you see this move, that doesn't mean right away that you're gonna go all the way down, right? This can also turn into a bigger correction. So therefore, you need to be able to determine that the first move lower is actually some kind of an impulsive wave A. That gives a high probability of a successful trade to the downside in terms of continuation. And if you think it's not clear for you for the buy, then I think the best thing to do is just let this correction settle and then trade the continuation. Pound dollar. Well, we said we want to see this high taken out, and there are different ways we can do that. We can make where am I here? A B, and a C, and then come back up. Or this simply keeps trading higher, and we take out the high already, and then we have a potential sell. But we need to take out that high for a high probability sell all the way down. So what does that mean? Dig it out. 4 hour short term, this looks like a potential sell, down flag and another. That's what I was looking for during the non-farm payroll, but it didn't give me a trade. And if it doesn't give me a trade, well, very often it's because price is going either to the opposite direction or it's not moving at all. And therefore I'm very disciplined when it comes to following the rules. The 1 hour time from here we go. We have this move lower. That's really just one move. It looks very impulsive, but that itself is not enough. It's just so you know, we saw that before, right? Here, not much of a follow-up. Actually, it reversed. So it's the beginning. It's basically you build yourself a case. You have the minimum requirements for one thing, then you move to the next variable, and then the third variable, and then you execute the trade. So for now, I'm looking for this sell. I like to see this low taken out, and I take it from there. Same thing, either this is going to be a bigger ABC, and you're going to look for the buy like that, for example, which will bring price, here, to make a new high. But keep in mind, if we have a sell setup, we still might go for this move. So if I see a sell setup, I will try to keep it as long as possible. And this provides a potential sell setup, which means I'm going to look for this move here. If it doesn't get triggered, then most likely it means because price is trading higher. Well, that's fine. Then I seem to have an even better setup as soon as we take out the daily high, for example. But short term, this is not a buy setup for me. This is a potential sell setup. And that sell, well, we have to determine whether that's going to take us down all the way or turn into a bigger ABC and then back up once again. Dollar CAD. Well, we were pretty successful in calling the short up here, but I didn't expect price to accelerate lower like this. And that's what I mean. If I give you the bias and the setup of what I'm looking for, I always keep in mind that the things can change, structure can change, and cutting your profits short is one of the mistakes most retail traders do. They let the losses run and they cut the profits short. Well, by means of a structured trade plan, that should not be the case. But what does it mean in terms of the structure? Well, technically nothing is invalidated here. Still the same thing. This is a 3-wave pattern higher, but it has a minimum requirements of bullish impulse. And I was looking for this move, to say the least, a wave C. I don't think that this is enough for the wave C. Technically, it could be, making this a bigger ABC pattern, but in almost 14 years of experience, this would be extremely rare. It doesn't mean it can't be the case, but I don't think it's very likely. But keep in mind what I said about the dollar index. Things can extend, and for example, if you go to the dollar CAD on the weekly, this was the first impulse, pretty clear, which was corrected by the way. Then we have this sideways correction that took its sweet time, but it was a clear corrective structure, and we had to push lower. This push lower came a little short in my opinion. It's a three-wave structure, that's confirmed to be over, so keep that in mind. This is 1, 2, 3. So I like to see a bigger correction, but if we continue lower, then basically this is what you see, the continuation lower, and then we come back up altogether. So daily, we already covered that. 4 hour, what am I looking for? Well, after the data last week of the Canadian employment data suggests that there might be some room for the Bank of Canada to start hiking rates. On the other hand, if they disappoint, well, this will be wiped out real quickly. Right now, on the 1 hour time frame, that's the one I would take into consideration. This is not ideal for a sell at all. The structure, this is not looking good for a sell. So what does that mean? For now, not much. I need to see what this is gonna do. This is really nothing to me in terms of trading. This spike lower, or well, it looks extreme, but it was exactly in line with our statistics that we use in terms of how much something can move as a daily range. Well, I didn't exceed the daily range, I did exceed the weekly range, which otherwise means there's nothing really weird going on here. It's just all the action happened in one candle instead of, let's say, 20 candles. But it's not something like a new trend or something, not at all. So we have to look through the noise. What that means is I want to see what's going on here. Maybe if this starts settling, you know, then I simply look for a sell, and that sell needs to take out this low. That's the minimum requirement, and then I take it from there whether we reverse. Right now there's no reason for me to buy or to sell. The dollar CAD needs, in my opinion, some more candlesticks before it's anything else. Other than that, on the daily, once again, this is clear correction. I consider this to be some kind of wave B or connecting wave, and this is strong wave C, meaning that this is one corrective structure, and I'm still looking for this move higher. But I have no entry whatsoever, and I need at least a day, probably two, for that to present itself. If not, that probably means that we're gonna get some minor flag here. I think that should at least be a 1 hour flag, maybe even a 4 hour, and then you can have a short-term sell. And once again, I gave you the context. We have the potential of extending lower, so that sell trade you want to manage closely by means of managing your stop. You can take partial profit or all the profit, of course. It's up to you, but at least move your stop loss to break even if you execute a sell and once you target a low. But also, let me emphasize, there is no sell setup right now, not at all. Well, it is what it is. The dollar CAD looked very promising, and it's another reason why it's so important to understand patterns. Because if you understand structure like completely and you understand the dynamic in the market, this sell already made all the money. And where most people are waiting for the buy or we're already in the buy, we took the sell, and there's no reason to take the sell off the table. So this is already an amazing trade. So either way, if we reverse, I close and I start buying for this move. If we move lower, then I'm enjoying the rest of the remaining of my position lower, because same thing. This was my first target. This low here. So that's where you either manage the position by means of taking profit, partial profit, but at least my stop is to break even. I took partial profit, and now we'll see what's gonna be next. And the 1 hour time frame should give me the clue whether this is going to be consolidated for sell or reverse for the buy. Dollar Swiss, well, it's a little bit comparable. If we look to the recent price action, we have this move higher here, comparable to dollar CAD. I mean, also a three-wave move higher, but it has the minimum requirements of bullish impulse. But look at this. This is something that looks way nicer, right? This looks better than a dollar index. That's actually giving a strong wave C or maybe continuation lower, and it definitely looks better than the dollar CAD. So far this looks like a clear three-wave pattern. So what does that mean? I'm still looking for this move here to the upside, and that means I need to go to the 4 hour, the 1 hour to see whether I see a reverse anytime soon. Well, this is not what I like to see for a reversal. So what does it mean? Let's go to the 1 hour time frame. I like to see a continuation of this yellow box. So that means maybe something like this. Maybe we're going to test a trend line and then continue lower once again. But for now, for me the trade will be, because this is not a trade at all, not even a sell, not even a buy, but I like something lower. So let's say take out this low here, and if that gives me some kind of a flag, so A, B, C lower, I'm just giving the simple patterns for the simple reason, if those certain patterns happen, the probability of the follow-up is higher. So you always start looking to the highest probability scenario before you start making things more complex than necessary. But if we go lower and we take out, for example, this yellow box, that would be ideal for me, and I see a reversal sign, I'm looking for this buy here. I don't expect this to be the start of the reversal altogether, but it can definitely turn into a good trade. And by means of a good trade, I mean we can also see something like this, and then come back down again, etc., etc. Well, I mean, it's all over the charts, those structures, but my main focus is a continuation higher, but I think we need to test lower levels first, which means short term looking for potential buy, medium term potential sell, longer term definitely looking for buy. For now, the 1 hour time frame, let's see whether this is going to happen, and then in European or North American session, or we have a potential buy for third leg higher, continuation of this 3-wave pattern. Alright, don't just jump in, that's not what I'm saying. Don't say I put a pending here no matter what. I mean, you can do it if that's your style, if you like, but that's not what I'm suggesting, because to use a pending order you have we have specific rules, and I can't share them here. So but this is the structure I'm looking for, that would be ideal. And once this makes a new low, then actually we can start over the process again for continuation high as well. New Zealand dollar, US dollar, continues higher, pretty clear. There's some strong candles here after some minor consolidation. Let's go to the 4 hour time frame. I need to zoom out a little bit. Alright, we have here one leg higher and the consolidation. Keep in mind what I said with the potential for the dollar yen. You can you might be dealing with a contracting correction by means of A, B, C, where wave C comes up short. That means this is not going to turn into a triangle, this is just going to continue higher, because this is it. Alright, let me draw it in just to make it clear. This was a simple 3-wave correction where wave C didn't take out the low of wave A. Therefore, what you want to see in a dollar yen, let me go real quick. You see 1, 2, 3. What you see here, 1, 2, 3. You want to see the response, and if that's something like here, consolidation, you look for the buy. If it's a reversal, well, even better, because that means there are less options on the table. Anyway, this was the first leg higher here, correction, another leg higher, correction, and we have another leg higher. So what am I looking for? First of all, I think this is in need of a correction. This needs to come down. But what I'm looking for is it to come down in the latest block. So something like this will most likely be enough, if you draw the fib like this, maybe 38.2, whatever, to correct this move. But then I actually want to see correction of this entire move, and then we come into an interesting zone that I determined a while ago. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I think it's very likely that we're going to test the 70-50, 70-60 ish area, to say the least. On the 1 hour time frame, right now this is not a reversal sign, guys. It can turn into a reversal sign, but keep in mind this is the end of the Friday afternoon trading session. This market makers just playing around, creating some kind of a little bit of market in terms of let's see what is reversed, but this is not enough, not at all. So what I want to see is some kind of a sell setup, and look for this sell, and then keep it, look for this move, and still keep it, and maybe look for the time move lower. I don't think that's the case. I think this is what we might see, but it can happen from a little higher, because like I said, we don't have a sell setup yet. But keep in mind what I said by means of the pound dollar, for example. If this turns into a correction, you simply look for the continuation higher. Don't get biased. And if this makes something like this, you might actually see another sell, and that's this leg. That doesn't matter whether that happens within this structure or below, not at all. But you need to see first of all some kind of reversal sign, because I think this is definitely in need of at least a significant correction, which means I think this is kind of necessary. But you have to keep in mind that price might go higher first, because first of all, the market will open in a low volume market, and that's less reliable, of course. And there's no confirmation that this is over, but so far this is the structure. That's what we're looking at right now, and I think we need a significant correction of this structure, but we need at least a correction of this structure here. So I'm looking for sells in New Zealand dollar, US dollar. The Aussie USD, comparable, but I think even better, because this is a very strong wave, of course, we can all see that. And it's a 3-wave pattern. So we're here dealing with a 3-wave structure. Go to the 4-hour time frame. What I'm looking for is for correction of this move, to say the least, but possibly even a correction of this entire move, and then we come close to an area I determined a long time ago as a strong confluence zone, and where big money is accumulating. 1-hour time frame. Well, this looks actually good because it's after a strong run. It's not in the middle of nowhere. But keep in mind, this is some kind of a wedge structure. That's how you call it in classical technical analysis. But it's on the 1-hour time frame, telling us this is actually a minor fractal. So there's no guarantee that this is going to happen whatsoever. Not at all. This could be enough, something like this. And we go back up again, and then the real move might start after everyone is stopped out already. So make sure that you don't just jump in. Don't try to be a hero by just selling the tops or what you assume is going to be a top, because if you go to the daily time frame, this is not a top. This is literally between the 50 and the 61.8, which I call no man's land. So keep that in mind. What I'm basically looking for bearish signs, which means I need some kind of a move lower, a flag, and then I'm looking for the continuation lower, like this. Because it's comparable to New Zealand dollar, US dollar, I think that the Aussie dollar is definitely in need of a significant correction, and I really like to see a correction of this entire move, to say the least. But keep in mind, this can easily go a little higher, so only draw the Fibonacci when you have the first signs that it's over. This is not over yet, or at least there's no sign that's over yet. It can be over. So let me rephrase that. There's no confirmation that this is over yet. But this is the move I'm looking for, which is a big move. But we have to see how that's going to unfold. Once again, if this, for example, turns into a 3-way structure, whether it's below or above, I don't really care. Because once again, this is only a 1-hour wedge. That's not really significant. I just follow the trend and I start buying once again. Alright? So if this comes down corrective, at least manage it. But don't miss the easy setups, although they can be short-lived. Because every buy, you target the previous high right now. That's simply how the structure tells us is the minimum requirements. So if you look for buys, you target the previous high. So this is not something you want to buy, for example, not at all. Not even based on the setup, but also not because of risk reward. But once again, my focus will be on the reversal. And if things change, well, like I said, I simply adjust. But I need more candles for that. Silver, yeah, a little bit boring. We covered it last week, and nothing changed yet. This is one unique wave, and we need a correction of that before you want to look for this buy. The reason is simple. If we don't see significant correction, this can easily drop once again lower. I don't see that as very likely. I think silver is really trying its lows around the 15 and the 16 level for a push higher. But if we look at gold, the structure is a little bit clearer in terms of the bearish potential. And I'm not saying silver will follow gold, but it might mean that if gold needs to make another move lower, that silver, for example, is going to stall for a while, and that's not really interesting buying. Silver needs clear corrective structure, same as gold. This is one unique wave. You need to see consolidation telling you that this wave is over, so you will be able to buy, for example, the continuation. In this case, first target for the gold is this high. But I already described it last week. I see a scenario that we come down all the way first. The higher we go, the less likely at the moment, but in terms of the bigger picture for gold, and then I refer to the weekly, I actually want to see something like this. 3 waves higher, and then 3 waves lower, maybe even break out this low here, and then higher. But once again, that might be too much, but that would be the perfect setup for long term, and that would, well, be an amazing setup for silver as well. Other than that, we deal with what's in front of us. So far, this has the minimum requirements of bullish impulse, which means that I simply wait and see. For the 4 hour, for example, either give me a flag here, and then the buy, and if it drops lower I stay out of it. Then I'd rather buy it from the lower levels, because the lower the better, and I'm not interested in the sell, I'm interested in the buy. So either we're gonna flag buy or we come back all the way down, fine, then I'm not in the buy neither, if I follow my rules, and then I will just pick up the pieces from lower lows. Euro pound. Yeah, not much change. Last week I already said this is not a reversal sign, and the same thing as what I just said about potential wedge patterns on lower time frames. They don't mean nothing. It's flipping a coin. I said it can easily be a messy move higher, and then we drop lower. And that's still what I think. I like to see this high taken out, and then we'll take it from there. Whether we're going to drop, and whether that's going to be drop like this and then continuation higher, is yet to be determined. In previous videos I already gave the scenarios. This was the impulse, this could be the B and 3 for C, and we go for new highs. It could be the case that we have this here, now we make this here, and then this lower, and then the highs. So there are too many scenarios right now, but the 1 hour time frame is what you will probably want to follow for short-term trading opportunities. Right now this is not a sell for me neither. I don't think this is ideal. I like to see this come down, and then I see a response, and if that's corrective, well, you can look for the sell, right? I don't think this is gonna accelerate now. We're either gonna make a correction, then you look for the sell, and if it doesn't correct or doesn't get triggered, then you're most likely gonna see the high taken out, and then you look for the sell from the higher levels. But I would say I would refer to previous videos where we went over the 3 major scenarios that are likely in this this pair, in this cross, and so far nothing changed. Pound Swiss, same, nothing really changed. This was very messy last week as well. Looking for this end and then drop down, but this doesn't look very promising. It doesn't mean it can't go lower, but this time frame doesn't suggest that this is ready to continue lower just yet. 4 hour time frame, here we have, I think this is a 3-wave pattern, this here. I was looking for this to be 3-wave pattern, so something like A and then expanding for B and then the C lower, and now I start to believe that this is the entire correction for B, and this was a 3rd wave lower. We'll see, but in the 1 hour we might see a short-term trade. That's basically all I can give right now, because the rest is simply, well, not clear yet, which means you might look for a sell after this 3-wave structure. It looks good so far, and then you look for this move lower, and then you want to see whether it's going to break, yes or no. If it breaks, well, good for you, you're in the trade. If it doesn't, well, you take it up, or you bring it to break even at least, and you try to position yourself for buy. But that's the only thing right now we can be looking for in the pound Swiss in terms of what we have right now, this move here. But like I said, I don't really like how this is unfolding, because the daily time frame doesn't suggest this is really ready to reverse yet. So you have to play it on the 1 hour time frame. And I just want to emphasize this. You see, strong move lower and then bottoming out, right? Here, not a strong move lower, not even a follow-up. We went back up right away. Same thing here. This was the only one that gives some kind of a push lower, but it was only slightly, you see? So be careful, play it on the 1 hour time frame. But definitely the buy is to the downside, which means that you like to trade the shorts and see whether you can keep it, or at least keep partial of your position, the part of your position. Pound yen, well, doing well. Move to continuation high. Last week we said we had this 3-wave lower, and now we push high once again in what looks to be a corrective move as well. This here. So let's see the 1 hour time frame. This is a warning, guys. This is what I mean. strong moves don't always are an impulse. It's really about building yourself a case if you want to trade high probability and the way of least resistance. So for example, pound dollar, let me just emphasize it. You see this move here? I want to look for continuation. I didn't see a trigger to the non-farm payroll, and there was none, and it was actually bullish. Pound yen, here, this was a response. Don't assume too much. Don't assume too much in trading in general. Just trade what you see, have a structured trade plan, follow the rules, be disciplined, and that's the only way to success. Right now, yeah, this is nothing. I mean, this is not really relevant for me what to say what's gonna be next, because there's too many options on the table. So I'm gonna go for the easiest way, because that's the way of least resistance and that's the way you want to trade it. This either start being a little bit messy. I think that's the most likely scenario, and then I just draw the ideal flag pattern, of course, but we know there are not many ideal patterns. Then you see the short-term buy. If you see a buy, target previous high, same thing. This high here, this is the 153.74, 75 ish, and of course, if this starts dropping like a rock, like accelerating, and gives you some kind of a confirmation, or means of a minor consolidation flag, then you look for the continuation. Keep in mind that you want to look for sells in the pound yen bigger picture, which means, once again, if you see a 1 hour sell setup, you can look at it daily and see how corrective this is. I think it was last week's video where I said my ideal reversal zone for the pound yen is slightly higher, around the 157, 158. I'm not saying that to buy issue that we have to test it, but if we see a reversal from zones that I give, well, you can see it in previous videos, that's pretty much 100% guarantee of a successful trade. But that's not structured, that's market dynamic. So keep that in mind. We might easily trail higher, so don't just jump in. And I also gave you the warning about what we saw here, and I hope you see that yourself as well. Don't assume. So let's see what's going to happen here. If this consolidates, then simply trade with the trend, because that's still the easiest way. One of the mistakes most retail traders make is that they try to sell the top and buy the bottom, but in fact they're actually selling within a trend. Most successful traders in the retail market are actually successful in corrections, consolidations, and they lose money in the trend. And if you think on that, that's the difference between a successful retail trader and a successful professional trader. A successful professional trader trades successful with the trend. Return is 10 to 1 risk reward easily, and opportunities to add second or third position towards the position, so result in 20 to 30 to 1 risk reward. Where the most successful retail traders, because the simpler way to trade is harmonics and support resistance, they need a range. Well, the good thing is 70-80% of the year market is ranging. The bad thing is it's harder to be profitable, and if you're profitable, you cut your profit short. So trade what you see. If this consolidates, don't fight it. Don't try to be the hero. Just take this trade, target the previous high, walk away, take your partial profit, entire profit, or whatever, and take it from there. Alright guys, safe trades. I'll be back next week, and have a good trading session. Bye bye.